Good evening, everyone. My name is Zach McKinney. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology, Criminology, and Human Services, and I'm also one of the co-directors of the Hartwick Institute of Public Service. It is my great pleasure to welcome our community members, as well as our Hartwick College faculty, students, and staff to the Otsego County Candidate Forum. This forum is co-sponsored by the Hartwick Institute of Public Service, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan regional political institute dedicated to state and local government, civic engagement, and legal studies. And the goal of our institute is to inspire the next generation of public service, as well as to create meaningful avenues for careers in state and local government, and also to serve as a means of connecting our New York communities in order to strengthen our democracy. I believe that this forum is of especially great significance as a result of our recent voter registration efforts on campus. So this semester, we registered 163 students to vote, and 132 of them registered locally here in Otsego County. And so I believe that this event should serve as a great way for our students to learn more about the crucial issues affecting our area and to meet the candidates that are going to be vying for their votes in the upcoming general election on November 7th. So we hope that these efforts will not only lead to increased voter participation in an off-year election, but that they will also foster a great sense of lifelong civic engagement among our students. So before I turn it over to our candidates, I did just want to thank a few people and organizations for their hard work in organizing our forum this evening. So there are a number of offices and departments around campus that helped make this event possible, including the Political Science Department, the Department of Sociology, Criminology, and Human Services, and the Office of Civic Engagement. I would also just like to thank my co-directors of the Hartwick Institute of Public Service, Professors Laurel Elder and Matt Chick, for their tireless commitment and support. Also just wanted to thank Chris Spiewak, as well as Damon and the IT team. Thank you all so much for taking care of all of our audio-visual needs for the forum. We also want to thank Darlene Comp for her support in providing the catering services that we will have after the event tonight. And we would also just like to thank the Otsego County Board of Elections, who were really instrumental in helping to register our students to vote. And then finally, I just wanted to recognize the Community Foundation of Otsego County, who provided us with a very generous grant in order to make this evening possible. And then our list of thanks would not be complete just without recognizing the enormous contributions of our students, including Michael Christian, Hannah Anderson, Faith Johnson, Kalia Cawthorn, Olivia Ansong, Kara Swartwood, Kalia Kennedy, Jada Vaughn, Sarah Matsuburo, and Ethan Kendall Bryce, just to name a few of the many, many students that have engaged in the democratic process this semester, that have helped register their fellow students to vote, that have made posters promoting the importance of local election. You all are really an inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much. And then last, of course, but certainly not least, I want to thank our candidates. McGuire Benton, Deirdre Hay, Meg Kennedy, Adrian Martini, Nora Mendez, David Bliss, and Andrew Marietta for their willingness to participate in the candidate forum this evening. Both Meg Kennedy and Nora Mendez did have prior commitments. They will be running just a little bit late, but they should be joining us at some point this evening. Thank you all again just so much for your willingness to participate. So please join me in welcoming our candidates to Hartwick College. Thank you all so much. And then one thing I just wanted to note again before we begin, I just wanted to inform all of our audience members that we did invite all of the candidates that were going to appear on the ballot in Otsego County to join us this evening. So in addition to the candidates that you all see on stage, We also did hear from District Attorney John Mule, as well as Sherilyn Singa, who is also running for the 6th Judicial Supreme Court seat. So we're currently working with District Attorney Mule to see if he will be available for our next forum that we'll be having here next week. And I do have a message from Sherilyn Singa that I will read on her behalf. No other candidates responded to our invitations. So the format for this event is very simple. I'm just going to provide each of our candidates an equal amount of time, say roughly 3 to 5 minutes, to introduce yourselves and to just briefly discuss the vision for the office that you're running for or the office that you currently hold. And then after that, we do have several questions that we have prepared for the candidates, but we are much more interested in giving our audience members an opportunity to ask their questions as well, too. So there are 2 ways that you can ask a question. You should have received a note card and a pen on your way in. So please feel free to write your questions down on the note card. We do have some student volunteers, some runners. So if you have a question, you can just hold it up. They can grab it, bring it up to me, and I can ask it on your behalf. But we also, of course, just have a microphone as well, too. So if you have any questions, you can just raise your hand, and we'll bring you a microphone to ask your questions as well. With that said, I will just go ahead and turn it over to our candidates. So if you all, again, could just take about 3 to 5 minutes and just discuss, introduce yourself and discuss your vision for the office that you're running for.
Do you want me to?
That would be great. Thank you so much.
It's just awaiting direction. My name is Adrienne Martini. I am running for the District 12 seat on the Otsego County Board. It's wards 3 and 4, which are kind of from, they're not the wards that Hartwick is in. It's just down the hill, though, just a little bit down the hill. I have been in the District 12 seat 6 years. I'm looking at them because they're one more than me. So from 2017, and the time has flown by. Before running for the office, I taught at both SUNY Oneonta and adjunct at Hartwick College in the English department. I also, after that, wrote and edited the SUNY Oneonta Alumni Magazine. And I currently work at the Farmers Museum as a historic interpreter. I was telling Andrew that I managed to get home and take off my historic garb and run back up here. So I am currently also the chair of the Human Services Committee, which oversees DSS, which is the Department of Social Services. And I sit on 2 committees for NYSAC, which is the New York State Association of Counties. We meet twice a year. And I sit on 2 committees, both of which are related to public health, mental health, and it's essentially the DSS committee is the second one. I am not originally from this area, grew up in Pittsburgh, but we've been here for 20-some years. So I think we're going to stick around.
Thank you so much. McGuire?
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you to the Hartwick College Institute of Public Service. I'm McGuire Benton. I am the Democratic and Independent Customer Service Party candidate for Otsego County Clerk. I was raised here in Otsego County. I am a product of our public schools. I know our communities, and I've worked in them for a long time. I've heard a lot of things about experience in this race, and we're very lucky to have 2 experienced candidates running for the job. I'm the only one here tonight. But I wanted to take a minute to really dive in on experience. I served 2 terms as a village board member in Cooperstown, working in local government with our partners at state, with my colleagues on the board. Much of that service was during COVID-19. during a public health crisis and a subsequent financial crisis where we had to work to make tough choices to cut $800,000 out of 2 budget cycles, keep our employees insured and paid, keep our fire department funded and our parks open. And that informs me in my run for the county clerk's office. I also served 2 terms as a deputy Otsego County elections commissioner, where during that time, one of the core responsibilities of that job was to be the absentee clerk. Again, a portion of my service there was during COVID-19 where everyone was voting by absentee. So, what do you do when you have 11,000, 12,000 absentees in front of you and you and your team are responsible to ensure that everyone can exercise their franchise without error? That has informed my run for county clerk, and I've spent a lot of time in the public sector as well, working for a phenomenal local business, which we've grown in a big way over the last years. I also think that we're in a moment right now in the country where people are looking for a new generation of leadership to step up and take on hard jobs. And the clerk's office is an important one. It is where all litigation is initiated, where all of the land records are held, the oaths, affirmations, deeds, mortgages, processing the property tax. These are all really vital and important services. It also requires managing and overseeing the Department of Motor Vehicles. That is a particular passion of mine, my focus on DMV. What do we need to get done? What's the most pressing issue for our next county clerk is restoring DMV services here to the city of Oneonta. It has been my top priority throughout the campaign, and I've remained consistent on this issue the entire time. Not just DMV, though. We need to implement drop boxes for after-hours accessibility. We need to create an optional online appointment system that puts scheduling in the hands of our residents. I want to go the extra mile for taxpayers. I love public service. It really is the most rewarding and enriching thing that I've ever done, and I don't know who I'd be without it. So I'm really glad that you're here, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, McGuire. Deirdre, take it away.
Oops. Thank you. Look, thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you to the organisers. I really appreciate you being here and having this chance to talk to you and get out the message. You're one of 10 counties that I'm running in, and it's Broome, Chemung, Shenango, Cortland, Delaware, Madison, Otsego, Schuyler, Tioga and Tompkins. And this position, it basically does civil work over $25,000 as a massive simplification, but that's kind of what it is. I'm an attorney at the moment. I've got decades of experience doing litigation and serious litigation, from complex, big value litigation to personal injuries work. So I've done a really big range of litigation. I taught a class at Cornell in business law earlier this year. It was fashion law, but it was business, and it was a lot of fun. And my most recent case was representing the Elizabeth Cady Stanton Trust, pushing for the Equal Rights Amendment, because I believe that women and everybody should be free of discrimination. So that was a pro bono case I did in the Albany Supreme Court for the Elizabeth Cady Stanton Trust, Elizabeth Cady Stanton being a famous suffragist, and she's my client, and she took me to the birthplace of the women's right movement, to Seneca Falls, where we met with the governor and the Attorney General and celebrated the writing of the Equal Rights Amendment. That fairness and justice for everybody is very important to me. To that end, I'm also on the board of Law New York, that gives free legal advice to people, because everybody should have justice, not just the people who can afford a fancy attorney that costs a lot of money. So Law New York gives advice to people who need it so they can be represented and everybody can get justice, because by definition, justice has to be for everybody. The court does a range of matters such as property law. I learnt property law from Justice Mark Masler, who is on the Supreme Court now, although I have to disclaim he doesn't endorse me. He's not allowed to endorse anybody. It also decides guardianships, and I have a special needs son and I am his guardian, so I understand special needs trusts and guardianships. I have done personal injuries, and one of the other things, the court does 30% divorces and separations, and I've got family law experience, and I also have a family of 3. I know I sound funny, but I've lived in America for 1/4 century and in Tompkins County for 23 years. My 6'9" Special Olympics epileptic son is 23, so I know that I've been in Tompkins for 23 years, and I'm not going anywhere either. And so from having a special needs son and 3 children, I feel I bring a lot of compassion and understanding to divorce matters because I've lived it. I've lived, you know, the massive tensions of having a son on some pretty horrible medications that made things quite difficult at home. So for 30% of the work, I have tons of understanding of families and experience doing family law matters, and I think that's very important. The other big thing is that the court decides election law. It's a term for 14 years, so the next judge that we elect is going to be deciding election law for the next 14 years. All my organisations have been non-partisan. I'm, Law New York, Women's Bar Association. I was president of an organisation, WBOSNI, which is 4,300 attorneys statewide, where I worked with the chief judge of the state to improve the justice system. And this organisation, we lobbied in Albany for equal rights and good things for women and children and diversity people, because that's really important. And that was non-partisan. That was on behalf of everybody, not just someone from a political party. So my opponent is or was active on the Broome Conservative Party. Her firm says that she was their attorney and also an executive member of the Broome Conservative Party, and she used to be Senator Libis's special counsel. And so I feel I'm less political than my opponent, and I'm also here, like you said. And so all my organisations are non-partisan, and I have endorsements from both sides of the political aisle. I'm on the Democratic line. Working Families Party has endorsed me, and I have a former chair of a Republican committee who's also endorsed me. And a lot of farmers around the place, you might see some green Farmers for Hay signs, and that's because I have a horse farm and I used to represent farmers, dairy farmers of America, farmers in general, and I understand what they go through. So typically they're on the opposite side of the political aisle from me, but we get along really well. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deirdre. Andrew?
I think, first of all, I full disclosure, I'm on the Community Foundation board, and so is Dave Bliss. And I think, for myself, I think this is a great initiative. And I part of my remarks are going to be more kind of bigger picture, I guess, in a way, because I think there's an opportunity, especially the majority of the people being in here are students, that obviously there's an opportunity for you all to get involved from a political standpoint. There's a variety of ways for you to get involved in your communities, and I think that's one message that I want to try to connect the dots here on. So first of all, I am running obviously for county representative, much like my other colleagues here, and I actually was elected the same year that Dave Bliss was elected, as well as May Kennedy, who will be joining us. And as well as another associate of ours, or another county representative, Dan Wilbur, who is not able to be here tonight. And the four of us all came together when the board basically changed over 50%. 7 people were all elected the year that we joined in 2016. And that's a pretty, it causes a lot of turmoil. And I think that, but it in a way, it I think has laid the groundwork for a lot of positive change for Otsego County. But for myself, as Adrian was mentioning, I'm on a variety of committees. This is my 8th year, my 4th term. I assume I'll be reelected, much like Dave, much like Adrian. We do not have, and Meg Kennedy, we do not have opponents. So someone will vote for us, I assume, or myself, I guess. I think, I don't know the optics of what that says. I think that, I will say we're in the middle of a strategic planning process, and we are asking for public input. And I think that if the public was upset or disgruntled with Otsego County government, we would be hearing that. And I think the feedback is more constructive. It's more about how we can improve what we're doing, and that's what we want. That's what we need right now as we're undertaking this planning process. And so, in my role on the board right now, I'm on the administration committee with Adrian and Dave. And Meg Kennedy. I'm on Health and Education Committee. I'm on Performance Review and Goal Setting Committee, which is a very exciting committee. We do a lot of employee evaluation work and some goal setting work, and then Technology and Strategic Planning, which I chair our committee that's heading up our strategic planning effort right now. And then I have some appointed positions through my role on the board, including on our economic development kind of agency. We call them IDAs, and that's their official name here in Otsego County is Otsego Now, and they are focused on business development. And then I'm also appointed to Cornell Cooperative Extension of Schoharie and Otsego counties, and so a number of us end up in these other roles because of our elected positions and because of the partnerships that we have with these organizations and the funding we provide to them through county government. And I serve on a number of other nonprofit boards, and I'm out of the nonprofit sector, and I continue to work in the nonprofit sector. And I think that's one quick plug I'll put in here for those of you. Not everyone obviously is going to get elected, but I think the more of you that are motivated to run, the better. Who are any of us sitting here to tell anyone not to run for an elected position? So I mean, that's one message. I think I ran. Here I am 8 years later. I have a lot better understanding, a lot better experience. I did not have that when I ran, and I never would have been able to gain it if I didn't run and I didn't get elected. And I think we need a variety of opinions, a variety of expertise to be represented with our municipalities. And I definitely would say we have that with Otsego County. We could always do better, but I think doing better comes from people and a willingness for them to run. I think that, for myself, I feel like I got here because of my involvement with the nonprofit sector. And I think that's what one thing I would, kind of encourage any of you as students to do and consider is you don't have to be elected. There is an election process to join a nonprofit board, but the nonprofit sector is in great need. And as you go on to your careers and are looking of other ways of getting involved in your communities, and not just giving back, because there's a giving back piece, but also supplementing your own expertise, your own experience. Joining a nonprofit board will allow you to do things that you may not ever get to do through your own careers or occupations. And it also, not only exposure you gain, but you also could end up in a position like we are. For me, I went from my nonprofit jobs and involvement to being elected to a school board and then running for a county representative. And I have no aspirations for anything higher. So, that I won't go no further than here. If anything, I'm going probably down, like lower, maybe some more, less stressful, less time consuming, position, not the school board. I will say that at this point. But I think, for myself, if I had an opponent here today, even without an opponent, I think for the current board, there's a lot of consensus. For myself, when I first got elected, I didn't come in with an agenda. I came in wanting to, work within the parameters of the system we have. And there are limitations to what we can do within county government. There's limitations to what we can do within school boards. You have to learn those limitations and learn how we can improve upon what we have in place. And part of that is how we best leverage the resources we have and the people we have. And I think for us, it's taken us 8 years, but we have professional management now with a county administrator. That's a huge accomplishment for us. There's a lot of history behind that, and there's a big investment we're making in that position, and it gives Otsego County a really important tool right now, especially in a challenging environment.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
David, you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave can take over from there, so.
Well, thank you, and thank you everyone for being here, and thank you for hosting this event, and thank you all for being here. It's really great to see a lot of, especially young people here, because as Andrew mentioned, we need to get young people more involved. That's really important. Just a little background on me. I am a native of Otsego County. Grew up here in attended Cooperstown schools. Received 3 degrees, a BS, a BA, and an MS from a nameless institution across the ravine. And so I've spent my entire life here in Otsego County doing a lot of work. I started very early in public life. I think I was about 28 or so when I first got involved with the zoning board, and then went to the town board, became town supervisor, and then joined these group on the board in 2016 and became chair of the board in 2018. We've tried very hard to build consensus. I think one thing I strive to do is make sure everyone is heard. I think everyone gets the opportunity. We have some very long meetings sometimes, but we do build consensus, and we pass roughly in the 5 years I've been chair now, about 400 resolutions a year, and I would say 98, 99% are unanimous, regardless of party. And the few votes, I can only remember one vote that fell along party lines. Most of the time, it was just individual members that, for whatever reason, didn't agree with what we were doing in that particular vote. So I think it's important to build consensus. And the only way you can do that is by listening to opposing views. You can't have a monolithic block of views. You got to listen to everybody. Everybody's ideas have merit, and maybe they work out, maybe they don't. But more often, what happens is you take a little here, a little there, and sooner or later you have consensus, and it works well for everyone. Getting back to county government. County government is kind of the unsung hero in government level. I would say probably 80% of all government functions happen at the county level. The state may pass a law and they may provide some funding and they'll provide a mandate, but the county is the one that actually has to do the work. Social services in New York State, at least, a huge item. Adrian chairs that committee. That's the single biggest item in our budget is social services. And I'm glad that she's able to do that. I served on that committee when I was the first on the board. As chair, I'm kind of de facto on every committee, but I leave Adrian alone. She's doing a great job down there. And same with all of our committee chairs. I try not to interfere and just work after the fact. Biggest issues facing Otsego County: economic development and retention. Retention of young people, probably not really as much as just having young people. Our county population has been pretty consistent for almost 200 years. It's slowly starting to fade down. We've always been right around 60,000 people all the way back to 1840. Now we're down to about 58, and the projections are to go lower. And the biggest part of that, the average age has gone up, but it's for two reasons. One, people are living longer, and two, people are having fewer kids. So that raises your average age dramatically. So it's nice I'm sure a lot of you may not be from Otsego County, but we'd love to have you stay and work here and contribute to the community in many ways, professionally and as a volunteer in various organizations. So nice to see you here, and hope to see you here in the future as well. I'll keep it short and just be glad to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. Nora, thank you so much for your ability to join us. And I know Nora just came from work, so we're very grateful and appreciate your ability to attend. So Nora, what we've been doing is, as you probably have picked up on, just introducing yourself, talking about your vision for the office. So please take it away.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Nora Mendez. I'm running for the first time for county representative for District 11, which is Ward 1 and 2 here in the city of Oneonta. I like to call myself a transplant. I actually came up here for an education. I graduated from Hartwick in 2016, and I stayed up here. I was one of the few that decided Oneonta is the place to live. I'm originally from New York City, so that was a big change, but I love it up here. I can't complain. I just like the professor, I forgot your last name.
Oh, McKinney, that's fine. Or Zach is perfectly fine. Zach is fine, Nora,
So,
yeah.
as Zach mentioned, I just left work. I work actually at SUNY Oneonta. I know I'm a traitor, I'm so sorry. I work for a federal grant that we actually have on campus that works specifically with students who have a background in migrant work or seasonal and temporary farm work who have a financial and academic disadvantage to get into SUNY Oneonta and provide them services. And so that kind of led to why I wanted to get more involved in Oneonta and Otsego County. I was first approached by the mayor if I wanted to be a part of the affordable housing committee that he created. And I said, sure, I'll do it. I joined. One meeting, they were like, well, we need a chair. They started asking all of us. I guess they liked what I said about Oneonta, and they're like, great, you're gonna be the chair for this committee. And I'm like, okay, which was amazing. I've had the opportunity to work with amazing individuals from different areas here in Oneonta. And I said, okay, well, this is a great start. And then luck has it, Clark Oliver reached out to me because he was the county representative for District 11. He said he was not running again, and he asked if I would be interested. I asked Clark, okay, what would I be doing? And so he explained it a little bit more. And I think the purpose of being a county representative really is amazing. You get to not only focus on your area, but focus on the county, it's like as a whole. I've had the opportunity to travel all of New York State because of my job, and seeing the different local resources has been very beneficial. And I'm also very grateful for living in Otsego County because we have a lot of things that others do not because of funding. And so I think it's important that we continue those services in our county and then also expand. And so that's why I decided to start running locally. Again, Otsego County, for some reason, has a place in my heart now. I want to see what else we can improve on, but what services that have been very beneficial to our community, how we can continue to grow and expand them. So that way everyone gets these services, not just certain sectors of Otsego County.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nora. So before I turn it over to questions for the audience, I do just want to take a second and read the message that Cheryl Nsinga had sent to us. Again, she was unable to attend tonight's event, but was in communication with us and did want to send her regrets. She just said that unfortunately, due to a prior commitment elsewhere in the 10-county 6th Judicial District, she would be unable to attend. But she states that she's running for a state Supreme Court to bring her 25 years of extensive experience to serve those who appear in the courtroom. She was raised in the Southern Tier and has spent her entire career practicing law in our community, including serving alongside retiring Justice Jeff Tate early in her career. For the past 16 years, Cheryl worked at the respected Binghamton-based law firm Coughlin and Gearhart with a primary focus representing schools, towns, villages, and fire and EMS agencies. Cheryl also wanted to state that she has proudly given back to her community by volunteering on the board of directors of the Greater Binghamton Education Outreach Program, the Southern Tier AIDS Program, and the Broome County IDA and LDC. And finally, she just noted that you can learn more about her background at www.cherylinsinga.com or by following her campaign on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So with that being said, I did now just want to take the opportunity to turn it over to our audience to see if you all had any questions for any members of our Otsego County Board of Representatives or for the candidates running for the 6th Judicial District or County Clerk. Oh, and yeah, and if you will, Michael is bringing around the microphone. If you will use the microphone, that would be very helpful for us.
I brought my daughter Nadia. This is actually her question. I have two. I'll pass the mic around a little bit. But first one from McGuire. Two-part question. One is a lot of discussion on the DMV and that closure and reopening. And I was just sort of curious, what is the makeup of the amount of time you spend on the DMV services compared to those other things that you mentioned? You know, the volume of work that is required for DMV versus the other requirements of clerk. If you can just touch on that, I'm kind of curious. She is. Second is, it's kind of this idea, isn't DMV services maybe something that could be privatized and maybe someone else can do it outside the clerk's office? I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
Dan, I appreciate both of those. You know, in terms of workload percentages, you know, DMV is a major priority for me. It's something that I personally care a great deal about. And I think also it is the most public facing of the services that the combination of DMV and clerk's office offers. You know, even people who are under the age of 18, you know, say your 16-year-old coming to get your driver's permit for the first time, you know, everyone's going to interface with it at one time or another. And it's inherently bogged down. Not specifically just Otsego County, but in general, you know, nobody loves going to the DMV. So it's something that I personally care about. I will spend quite a bit of time on it. I hope that that answers your question. On the second side, you know, I am not a big fan of privatization, of giving away public services, the management operations of it, to private industry. I don't think that that's something that I will, you know, work to accomplish. Handing that off to private industry, I don't think is the right way to administer public services. So thanks for your questions.
Thank you guys all for coming and those wonderful opening statements. I have a question about that whoever wants to, who feels like they encountered this in their work, about illegal drugs in this area. I mean, I think most of us who've been living in this town for a while know that, like, things look different downtown, and we just noticed that there's, you know, problems because of heroin and meth and opioids. And I was just wondering what role the county government has played in trying to address this issue, or you think it should be playing. I'm curious if you feel like things are getting any better or worse. I'm sure this intersects with the social welfare piece a lot. And also, I think I read at one point that Otsego County got money, like settlement money. And I was just curious what we were doing with that money. Yeah. And then also, anyone who wants to can speak at it. I'm sure this comes up in the court system and as a lawyer too. I don't know if the city clerk deals with this exactly, but yeah. So anyway, I mean the county clerk. So, but all right, that's my question.
I will take at least some of that. So there, you could have asked a more simple question, because there are a lot of different pieces that fall together here. So in terms of the county, there are kind of two buckets, which is not the best word, but we'll use that word. So you have DSS, which is responsible for housing, maybe making sure people are getting the appropriate services outside of something like substance use disorder services. That's a whole other camp. The problem one of the big problems we're having in DSS is finding places that have affordable housing. So one of the best ways to help somebody get a little bit more stable is to get them in a house, get them so that they have a stable address, getting meals regularly, start to kind of get back into a routine. And it's hard to find places that are affordable in Oneonta and Otsego County. One of the problems that we face as a rural county is we're kind of limited in where we can put people because transportation is also very complicated. So this is a problem that kind of touches all of the other areas of the county. When it comes to looking at, it's called ARS. One thing you find when you are slowly coming up to speed on local any government is the sheer number of acronyms for things is bewildering. Buckle up. But there's ARS, which stands for Addiction Recovery Services. It's part of the county's mental health services. The problem that we're really having, and there are two problems. The first problem is drugs are becoming more lethal, and some of the things that are being added are really, if it's not lethal, it is causing a lot more kind of cognitive disorders, and that has been a challenge. I'm not fully, I am not an expert in that, but in talking to the experts, the street drugs right now it's brutal. And that is causing a lot of problems. Problem number two is finding people to work in addiction recovery services. We have the money to pay for folks. We cannot find social workers. This is a long-standing problem. It's not just Otsego County. But if you know any social workers, we've instituted a $5,000 hiring bonus. We cannot find social workers. Specifically, not only can we not find general, so like the kind of generic social work, there's a specific kind of social worker that we really need called a KSAC. And again, don't ask me what it stands for. But they are licensed to deal with addiction issues. We have one. We need like 5. We have one. And if any, she is also running the department. And if anything happens to her, I don't even want to envision that. We interface with state agencies, and they keep telling all of the counties, well, you need to find more. And this is just my personal current little irritation, is that the agency it's called OASIS, keeps telling us that you need to find more social workers, you need to find more KSACs. They're telling this to kind of every rural county without actually explaining how one does that, right? Like there are no magic social worker beans that we can grow them, right? You just have to wait till we have social workers. So that is another complicating factor. I know there was more to that question. The money. So some of the money, Dave and Andrew might have better answers for this, but some of the money has gone to beefing up our addiction recovery services. Some of it, I think most of it has been encumbered. I'm not sure if all of it has been spent.
Thank you so much. I know we had several questions, one from Professor Chick. Yeah. Oh, yeah, if anyone else wanted to, one moment, Deirdre, if you wanted to chime in on that as well, too.
So I'm not allowed to talk about issues that might come before the court, so this is a very connect the dots type of answer. I would I would ask you to consider different political parties' views on social welfare. Consider Florida. Consider how Bush v. Gore changed the landscape, which is an election law case of where our country went. And note that on the Supreme Court 6th Judicial District, we have 8 judges hearing matters at first instance. All of them come from the Republican line, and my opponent has been active on the Conservative Party. So I feel that democracy's on the line here, and it impacts things that you bring up. I can also add another factoid from an event I went to meet the candidates last night, where Justice Rich said that in his county, he's in Elmira, that there is 1 bed allocated to juvenile offenders, and when he had a person who was brought before him in the middle of the night who burnt down his parents' house, there was nowhere to put this person. So people are left chained to the desk of the sheriff's office because of lack of resources for social services and things like that. And yeah, so I can't talk about issues, but.
Thank you, Deirdre. Andrew, I know we have a lot of other questions in the audience, but if you wanted to just speak briefly on that.
Yeah, just briefly. I think Adrian, there's a lot of complexity to this issue. I think the main thing is that, Otsego County 1 has made significant investments in our personnel with the salary study. And, I think also undertaking the strategic planning effort, we're trying to lay the groundwork to make Otsego County government an attractive place to work, attract qualified applicants, try to right the ship in a way. And that kind of change takes time. And I think we're in a challenging position because we're playing catch up. And I think that, with the right people now, with the county administrator, with, the momentum and, I think to Dave's point, the general agreement amongst the county legislature about where we are going, what we need to do, these kinds of issues don't go away overnight. We know that. I think that the county needs to be, have a strong foundation and partnerships in place to help us better address these issues. And I think we have money, we just need to build a better system to attract the people that will help us, address some of these issues. I think right now it's very reactionary. Much of our history in Otsego County government is reactionary. We're trying to change that to a more proactive stance, and hopefully, in the next 2 years or hopefully shorter time frame, we'll have a different conversation about some of these issues. But and I will say the nonprofit community is a very important partner in a lot of these efforts, and the county government is a connecting point in terms of pass-through funding and coordinating these efforts. So it's, I think the one thing that maybe there isn't a lot of coordination on is the city of Oneonta and Otsego County. I think we're trying to strengthen that relationship as well.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks. Really different kind of question, but one can't help where one ends up on the queue. I'm curious, as particular candidates, either opposed or not, what you think about running in off-year elections. So local elections are not during presidential elections, usually not during big statewide elections. So, the general perspective from either democratic theory or political science is that this is kind of bad for democracy, right? Citizens have to do a lot more and know a lot about a lot more. I know I can speak for a little bit for Professor McKinney here too, who was trying to get students to register for a vote, and they went for what? And then he said, county clerk, and they went, what's that? Right? So would you rather be running in 2024, or from your perspective, does this make some more sense? Are there some advantages, or does it just not matter? Do you think you'd get opponents if it was on big years? Any thoughts or reflections on that?
I don't know if I understood all of it. You're specifically mentioning changing the election to the major years, is that that legislation? Yeah. If I understood your question correctly, I think it's a bad idea. I think it's better to keep it in the off years. I think it will lower turnout. It may not lower turnout, but typically the longer the ballot, a lot of people don't go down. History shows a long ballot, people will vote for one or two spots, they'll get to the top. Sometimes you have to turn it over, then they never even turn it over, So it actually will lower the vote, I believe. And it also takes away, if you're, competing with a gubernatorial election or a presidential election, the focus is on that and not on, what these local races. So I think having them in an off year allows people to be more focused on us and the candidates in that local election, because they're not hearing all the noise that's going on with the national or statewide election. Yes.
So one big difference is the cost of advertising, and as an off-year candidate, I'm very glad I'm not competing for spots with presidents, because I could never get my message out the way I'm trying to now. I also know that the party I'm on the line of tends not to vote in the off year more than my opponent's party, so I'm at a disadvantage because of that. But I also think that if you're in a on year with the president, then a lot of it depends on those two candidates, because people just follow down the line and it detracts from the consideration of the two candidates or threat or however many for the other positions. So it's pros and cons depending on what side you're on.
I think it's, I know there is legislation at the state that's not passed, but I know it's out there. Statistically, the more times you ask people to vote, the less likely they are to show up. So you could argue that it is a good thing for voter participation. I'm in a race where I'll probably see, and I'm hoping for better turnout because we've been everywhere, but we'll probably see 30% of the eligible voters show up, maybe a little bit more than that, 35%. Whether you're voting for the president of the United States or you're voting for your village board members, I think the more people that vote is a good thing. But I also think that I'm really not even sure where I am on that. I don't know how I would vote for it, because I think that we have a real blessing on the local level to cut through, like Dave said, a lot of the national noise, even some of the noise in Albany, which there is plenty of. And, I'm really encouraged because in my race, I've had the opportunity to bring, Republicans and Democrats and independents together behind a set of goals and ideas for a department, opposed to, I need you to get out and vote for me because I'm the Democrat or the Republican or whatever. And so it's been really reassuring to have endorsements from sitting Republican elected officials and Democrats and some independents too. And Otsego County is almost a third, and a third. So I like local elections. I think that they are equally as exciting, but less toxic than sometimes than presidential elections. So I don't know it's an interesting question. I don't know. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So there's a couple of things that I want to stress just very quickly. One is that we have plenty of time for more questions, but I want that to be in a different format than this one necessarily, so that we can have appetizers and enjoy fellowship in a less formal setting. But in this portion of the format, I think we just have time for maybe one more question. And also just wanted to as well say, thanks so much, Meg, for making it. I know you had such a busy day. So maybe one more question in this setting, and then we could hear from Meg briefly, and then we can enjoy some appetizers and speak with our candidates in a less formal atmosphere.
There's a Supreme Court judge in Otsego County. What will it mean to have another serving the county?
Sorry, I
Okay. There's a Supreme Court judge in Otsego County. What will it mean to have another serving the county?
another what? Sorry,
Like another person serving the
another
county.
judge. So the judge that's retiring, Justice Tate, is. So the number of judges are going to be the same. So it's not going to change the number of judges that are available to hear cases. But I love that you ask questions and that you're an engaged young lady.
Maybe then just very briefly, if we could just give Meg an opportunity just to introduce herself. And again, Meg has had the longest day, so we're very grateful to you for making a 3-hour drive, I think, to be here. Thank you so much. If you could just briefly introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about your office, and then we'll go enjoy some appetizers.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I got here in time. Yes, my day started at 5:01, and I drove to Penn Yan out in Finger Lakes, attended a day with the conference with the Soil and Water District representing Otsego County at a statewide Soil and Water District training and annual meeting, and then jumped in the car, and here I am. But Meg Kennedy, I've been serving on the Otsego County Board of Representatives since 2016, so my first election was 8 years ago. And so was yours, Adrian. And
Actually,
no?
2 years.
Oh, that's right, Dave. And Andrew, yes. So we've been working together on the Otsego County Board for 8 years together, and I think that it's just been really a great opportunity to represent my district of Hartwick, New Lisbon, and Milford on the Otsego County Board, and work with Dave on the leadership of the board, and work with Adrian and Andrew on the different committees and on the administration committee, really making decisions that help move the county forward down a number of paths. And I don't know how many of those we've actually talked about specifically, but in general, there's been a lot of things that we've worked on together. And it's been really a privilege and an honor to do that work. And I'm really glad to be able to be here tonight. And is that pretty much it? Should I say more?
That is wonderful, Meg. Thank you so much. So before we move to get some appetizers and then just have an opportunity for conversation in a less formal setting, I would just like to invite everyone here back next week, same time, same location, where we'll be holding another forum, but this one will be for candidates that are running for election for Oneonta Common Council. So again, same time, same location. It will also feature appetizers as well. So please come and learn more about the local candidates that are vying to represent you. Thank you all, to our candidates, so much for coming. Thanks to our audience so much for coming. Please join me in thanking them for their time. And to our students, I just want to say, even if you can't stick around and mingle, please get some food on your way out. We have a lot. Make sure that we are fed. Thank y'all.